Did you really think Hollywood's biggest secrets would stay buried forever? What if I told you that back in January 2020, Ricky Gervais stood on the Golden Globe stage, looked the most powerful elites directly in the eyes, and dropped a bombshell warning that sent a chill through the entire room? He didn't just tell jokes. He named Jeffrey Epstein out loud right in front of his celebrity friends. Look closely at the audience that night. Sitting right there were Ellen DeGeneres, Oprah Winfrey, and dozens of A-list stars who thought they were completely untouchable. But fast forward to the leaking of the explosive Epstein files, and suddenly, the biggest names in entertainment started vanishing into thin air. Why did Ellen abruptly end her show, sell off her luxury properties, and flee the United States to a country with no extradition treaty? Why did Oprah, who built an empire posing as a champion for victims, suddenly scale back her public appearances and start moving between hidden locations? From Tom Hanks and Leonardo DiCaprio going completely quiet to Richard Gere selling his estate at a massive loss, this isn't just a coincidence, and it's definitely not a lifestyle choice. They are running. Joe Rogan warned us about the dark, coercive system controlling Hollywood, and Dave Chappelle walked away from $100 million just to escape it. Ricky Gervais told them the walls were closing in, and now the dominoes are falling. Was this a massive, coordinated escape before the remaining unredacted files drop? Drop your thoughts in the comments, smash that like button, and subscribe right now because the truth is finally coming out. To understand why the biggest stars in entertainment are suddenly liquidating assets, canceling public appearances, and quietly relocating overseas, you have to look closely at the night the illusion of Hollywood's untouchability began to shatter. It was January 2020, at the 77th Golden Globe Awards. Ricky Gervais took the stage as host for what he promised would be his final time, addressing a room filled with multimillionaires, studio moguls, and elite power players. While standard award show hosts usually deliver gentle ribbing and self-deprecating humor to keep the room comfortable, Gervais made a deliberate choice. He didn't write his opening monologue for the 200 wealthiest executives sitting at tables right in front of him. He wrote it for the 200 million everyday people watching from home. With complete indifference to the room's high-stakes politics, Gervais launched a direct, unvarnished broadside at the industry's dark underbelly. The defining moment occurred when he brought up Netflix's Afterlife, a show about a man who wants to commit suicide and casually deadpanned that a second season was coming, meaning the protagonist clearly didn't kill himself, just like Jeffrey Epstein. As audible gasps and uncomfortable groans echoed through the ballroom, Gervais immediately shut down the room's defensive reaction. "Shut up. I know he's your friend, but I don't care." It wasn't a throwaway joke. It was a calculated shot across the bow. Gervais was explicitly telling the industry's highest earners that their social circles, their private connections, and their protected networks were no longer shielded from public scrutiny. Sitting in that audience, absorbing those words, were some of the most influential figures in modern media history, including global icons like Oprah Winfrey and Ellen DeGeneres. At the time, the room tried to laugh it off as edgy comedy. But within 4 years, as the unredacted Epstein files began leaking to the public, that uncomfortable moment on stage morphed into a terrifying prophecy. To comprehend why a joke about Epstein sent shockwaves through the room, you have to understand the predatory structure that Joe Rogan and other industry insiders have spent years trying to expose. Hollywood has never functioned as a pure meritocracy where talent alone dictates success. Instead, it operates as a tightly controlled, insular network where absolute power is concentrated in the hands of a small group of studio heads, producers, and talent brokers. For decades, these gatekeepers leveraged casting decisions, project funding, and media access to build a deeply normalized system of coercion and silence. The mechanics of this abuse were built directly into corporate structures. When the truth about Harvey Weinstein finally erupted into the public sphere, court documents revealed a shocking reality. His executive contracts actually factored in monetary costs for sexual harassment settlements. First claim, $100,000. Second claim, $250,000. Third claim, $750,000. The studio system hadn't just turned a blind eye to predatory behavior. They had calculated a financial price tag for human abuse and written it directly into corporate budgets. However, a system this pervasive cannot function on the actions of a few bad actors alone. It requires facilitators, connectors, and influential figures who bridge the gap between vulnerable newcomers and powerful executives. This is where figures like Oprah Winfrey faced intense public pushback. For decades, Oprah positioned herself as the ultimate cultural moral authority, a self-made woman who championed victims of abuse and provided a platform for survivors. But as historical photos, private party guest lists, and industry connections surfaced, critics pointed out a glaring contradiction. Oprah had spent decades moving in the exact same social circles as disgraced moguls and high-level predators, smiling beside them at exclusive galas and facilitating introductions between elite figures and rising talent. When the scandals broke, Oprah executed a swift public relations pivot, positioning herself at the forefront of victim advocacy movements. Yet, for millions of online observers, the math simply didn't add up. How could someone with the world's most sophisticated intelligence and media apparatus claim total ignorance while hosting, socializing with, and endorsing the very individuals exploiting young talent? A remarkably similar fall from grace unfolded with Ellen DeGeneres. Built on a carefully curated brand of wholesome humor, positivity, and her signature catchphrase, "Be kind to one another," Ellen became one of the most powerful connectors in Hollywood. Her talk show served as an essential promotional pit stop for top-tier celebrities, politicians, and emerging talent. But behind the scenes, according to industry sources and workplace allegations that surfaced later, her operation functioned as a vital node within the industry's broader power network. Ellen wasn't merely a TV host. She was an elite gatekeeper who attended private gatherings, maintained close ties with top-tier executives, and helped dictate who gained entry into Hollywood's inner circle. Her relationship with Oprah went far beyond friendly daytime TV rivalry. They were core components of the exact same high-level social architecture. For decades, young artists trying to make it in Hollywood were forced to navigate this implicit contract: compromise your values for access, or watch your career get quietly dismantled. Comedian Jim Carrey famously poked fun at this dynamic during an appearance on Jimmy Kimmel Live, making cryptic hand gestures and sarcastically announcing the secret symbols of elite industry networks. While the studio audience laughed, Carrey's delivery carried a sharp underlying truth about the moral and spiritual price required to reach the absolute top of the entertainment pyramid. Throughout the late 1990s and 2000s, this dynamic manifested in a distinct, recurring pattern. Promising young stars would experience meteoric rises, land massive blockbuster deals, and then suddenly suffer public meltdowns, unexpected career hiatuses, or erratic behavioral shifts. The industry routinely labeled these incidents as personal failures or mental health crises, masking the immense psychological strain placed on individuals caught in high-pressure, coercive environments. The rare individuals who saw the trap early and chose to walk away were treated as anomalies. When Dave Chappelle famously turned down a staggering $50 million contract renewal for Chappelle's show and abruptly flew to South Africa at the peak of his fame, the media labeled him crazy. In reality, Chappelle recognized that accepting higher levels of wealth and access within that corporate machine meant surrendering his moral autonomy. He chose freedom over the network, a decision that, in hindsight, looks less like a breakdown and more like an act of prophetic self-preservation. Most of Hollywood's top elite, however, made the opposite choice. They accepted the access, built their empires, and assumed their influence would shield them forever, unaware that the receipts were quietly accumulating. For years, that implicit deal appeared to hold strong for Hollywood's inner circle. The elite accumulated unprecedented wealth, expanded their media empires, and operated with the quiet confidence of individuals who believed they were entirely untouchable. But that sense of absolute security came crashing down in early 2024, when the legal seals on court documents connected to Jeffrey Epstein were formally lifted. Thousands of pages of court filings, flight logs, private correspondence, and deposition transcripts flooded the public domain, exposing the true scale of an international trafficking and influence peddling network. The release of these documents didn't just expose political figures. It cast a harsh, inescapable light on the entertainment industry's most celebrated names. Suddenly, a suspicious and synchronized pattern began to emerge across Hollywood. Stars who had spent decades relentlessly courting public attention, filling their schedules with talk show appearances, red carpet events, and brand campaigns, transformed into digital ghosts overnight. When you examine these individual career shifts together, the timeline reveals a calculated, widespread exodus rather than a series of personal lifestyle choices. The most dramatic shift came from Ellen DeGeneres. Shortly after the Epstein files were released, her high-profile media presence collapsed. Following the quiet cancellation of her long-running daytime talk show, Ellen and her wife, Portia de Rossi, embarked on a rapid liquidation of their extensive real estate portfolio. They put multi-million-dollar California mansions on the market, streamlined their financial assets, and relocated permanently to the United Kingdom. Industry observers pointed out that their chosen sanctuary happened to be a region strategically selected for its complex legal frameworks regarding international legal extraditions. A power couple that once owned the heart of American daytime television had completely uprooted their lives to live overseas. Oprah Winfrey's retreat, while less bombastic, was equally strategic. The woman who had been the undisputed face of American broadcasting for over 4 decades began scaling back her public appearances to an unprecedented degree. Private flight logs and investigative logs began tracking her movements across various international properties, noting a distinct pattern: short stays, low public profiles, and constant mobility. Reports surfaced showing her name appearing in contexts that required complex public relations maneuvering, triggering an avalanche of online scrutiny that no curated TV interview could fix. The ripple effect didn't stop with daytime television royalty. Tom Hanks, a beloved cultural icon whose name was dragged into intense internet speculation regarding unexplained high-level connections, began canceling long-scheduled promotional tours and public Q&A sessions. While official fact-checkers moved quickly to debunk the most extreme online theories, his sudden avoidance of unscripted press environments left fans asking difficult questions. Similarly, Leonardo DiCaprio found his name surfacing in legal correspondence detailing Epstein's persistent efforts to host private dinners and social gatherings with A-list actors. Representatives for DiCaprio were forced to issue legal denials emphasizing a lack of personal involvement, but the legal statements did little to quell the public's growing skepticism. The exodus extended far beyond California's borders. Veteran actor Richard Gere listed his expansive Connecticut estate for sale at a significant financial loss, a move rarely made by wealthy real estate investors unless time is of the essence. Shortly after, he relocated permanently to Spain. Eva Longoria publicly confirmed her transition to living full-time between Mexico and Spain, citing a changing political and social climate in the United States, though critics noted the timing perfectly aligned with the broader Hollywood exit. Rosie O'Donnell shocked her followers by declaring she had no intentions of living in the United States long-term, while high-profile Hollywood couples like Ryan Gosling and Eva Mendes reportedly finalized plans to establish their primary residence in London, well away from the epicenter of American legal investigations. What separates figures like Ellen and Oprah from standard celebrities caught in public relations storms is their fundamental role in maintaining the system itself. They weren't passive observers who simply attended a few high society parties. They were powerful cultural conduits who possessed the resources, intelligence, and access to understand exactly how the industry operated. When serious allegations surfaced claiming that elite social circles actively facilitated meetings between young, vulnerable individuals and predatory figures, the claims fit seamlessly into the established historical pattern of how power was brokered in entertainment. When the Epstein files opened the floodgates, the carefully constructed wall of silence collapsed. For decades, the industry's elite relied on an aura of untouchability, believing their immense wealth and cultural influence made them immune to legal or public fallout. But as veteran actors have quietly admitted in recent years, that arrogance ultimately created a dangerous sense of complacency. They left paper trails, sat for photographs, attended private gatherings, and assumed that the studio apparatus would protect them forever. They failed to anticipate an era where decentralized digital researchers could cross-reference flight records, real estate transactions, and court transcripts in real time. This widespread collapse illustrates that Jeffrey Epstein was never a rogue operator acting in isolation. He was an integral cog within a massive, highly organized system designed to compromise, control, and influence powerful people across politics, finance, and entertainment. Everyone in those top-tier networks understood the rules of engagement. They knew that access to capital, project greenlights, and favorable media coverage required keeping quiet about the dark realities operating in plain sight. When that network fractured under the weight of federal disclosures and public outrage, the elites were left with two options: stay in the spotlight and face uncomfortable questions, or run. The sudden rush to sell off property, abandon domestic media empires, and move to foreign jurisdictions provides a clear answer as to which path they chose. You do not liquidate assets at a loss, cancel legacy projects, and relocate across oceans unless the alternative poses an existential threat to your freedom and legacy. As the dust settles over the mass exodus of Hollywood's elite, the conversation has permanently shifted from wild internet conspiracies to a sober examination of justice, power, and corporate complicity. The sudden quiet across top-tier talent agencies and production houses isn't just a lull in the news cycle. It is the sound of an entire industry reeling from the slow collapse of its most protected secrets. For decades, the public was sold a carefully crafted illusion that celebrity culture was built on merit, hard work, and wholesome talent. But as court filings continue to be unsealed and unredacted documents slowly make their way into the public record, that pristine facade has completely crumbled. The general public now understands that behind the glitz of red carpets and daytime talk shows sat a transactional pipeline that commodified human access, leveraged leverageable secrets, and rewarded absolute silence. When high-profile figures sell off hundreds of millions of dollars in domestic real estate and quietly set up residence in countries without strict extradition agreements, they aren't just changing their address. They are acknowledging that the protective bubble of American media dominance is gone. This reality highlights the sharp foresight of individuals like Dave Chappelle, who famously walked away from a $50 million deal at the peak of his career. At the time, major outlets portrayed his sudden retreat as a cautionary tale of a star breaking under pressure. Today, in the context of fleeing billionaires and crumbling media empires, Chappelle's decision to reject the industry's ultimate golden handcuffs looks less like a breakdown and more like an act of survival. He recognized early on that accepting higher tiers of access meant becoming beholden to a machinery that demanded moral compromise. The contrast between those who refused the deal and those who embraced it couldn't be starker. Figures like Ellen DeGeneres and Oprah Winfrey built multi-decade careers on trust, empathy, and unmatched influence over American households. Yet, their long-standing ties to the exact power structures exposed in recent disclosures have rendered that trust irrecoverable. In an era where digital archives allow everyday users to cross-reference flight logs, guest lists, and past interviews at the click of a button, traditional public relations strategies of ignoring the noise or launching charitable diversions no longer work. Furthermore, the mainstream media's historical role as the sole gatekeeper of truth has been permanently disrupted. For years, major networks could bury uncomfortable stories simply by choosing not to cover them. If a major producer or beloved network host was implicated in toxic behavior, silence from the top news channels meant the scandal died in darkness. But the emergence of independent commentary, open-source investigative communities, and podcasts hosted by industry veterans like Joe Rogan created an alternative ecosystem, one where inconvenient truths could be analyzed in real time by millions of viewers without corporate censorship. This shift in media power is precisely why the elites are running rather than fighting back in the court of public opinion. They realize that the court of public opinion is no longer rigged in their favor. In past decades, a crisis management firm could issue a well-worded apology, book a softball interview on a friendly morning show, and reset a celebrity's image within a few months. Today, an apology tour only invites deeper scrutiny, more receipt collecting, and intense public pushback. For many, disappearing completely into international obscurity has become the only viable option to preserve what remains of their private wealth. However, A fundamental question remains for law enforcement agencies and international legal systems. What happens when the remaining unredacted files fully land? As federal courts continue to review sealed documents, the names of corporate executives, political figures, and Hollywood power brokers are steadily becoming part of official court records. The public is watching closely to see whether prosecutors will pursue real accountability, or whether the legal system will once again prove that extreme wealth buys an insurmountable layer of immunity. If foreign governments refuse to honor extradition requests, or if high-level figures manage to remain hidden behind offshore trusts and complex legal shields, it will only solidify what critics have argued all along, that the justice system operates under two distinct sets of rules, one for ordinary citizens and another for the ultra-wealthy. Yet, even if formal legal consequences are avoided through high-priced legal maneuvering, the social and cultural reckoning is already complete. The untouchable status of Hollywood's elite is broken, their platforms are dismantled, and their legacies are forever linked to the dark system they chose to enable. Ricky Gervais's iconic Golden Globes monologue was never just a collection of sharp jokes written for a single night of television. It was a historic turning point, a moment where the curtain was pulled back on stage in front of millions of people, naming the corruption directly to the faces of those who thought they were immune. The domino effect that followed, from sudden network cancellations to sudden international moves, proves that those sitting in that room understood the warning loud and clear. The era of blind celebrity worship is officially over. As the remaining pieces of this massive puzzle continue to fall into place, the public is no longer looking to Hollywood for moral guidance or inspiration. Instead, the world is watching the exit doors, waiting to see who runs next, and demanding that the full truth finally sees the light of day.